Billy here with Gilbert Travels. Welcome to our first international flight since the start of the pandemic, since late 2019. And today we're going to be flying with Air France from here in Seattle Tacoma Airport, direct to Paris. So come along on this wonderful 787 Dreamliner in business class. For now, we have access to the Delta Sky Club. So let's head over there and get checked in. So today I'm going to tell you a bit about what's involved with flying abroad to France here in spring of 2022. What it was like in terms of travel restrictions, mask wearing, vaccine requirements, all that kind of stuff with the latest updates here in April. And we're going to have a great time, of course, aboard this wonderful plane.
The absolute short version here is that fully vaccinated US citizens are welcome to travel to France. I will go into more detail for those of you interested towards the end of the video, but please make sure to verify your own travel status and restrictions when you're going to be taking your trip. Having my travels based here in Seattle, I've visited this Sky Club many times now, and while it would have been nice to get to visit at the dedicated Air France lounge prior to this trip, the Sky Club is a perfectly fine place to grab a bite to eat and a drink prior to a special trip like we're taking today. I will say, this is likely the busiest I've yet to see this lounge, but with 2 floors and plenty of seating areas, there always seems to be space available.
Cheers to the first of many, many bubbles on this trip. I always enjoy visiting here, so hope you enjoyed coming along as well. In a little bit, we'll head over to the plane.
For now, let's head over to the gate area, where I was glad to see a variety of international planes on display as we prepared to get on board and look at what tonight's business class service would be like on Air France on an overnight flight departing at a fairly early 4:30 p.m. Pacific time with an in-air duration of just over 9 hours en route to Paris. I'll go into the full details of today's booking on my return in Air France business class in a separate review, but I will mention that I did utilize points via the airline's Flying Blue loyalty program, which they share with their SkyTeam partner, KLM.
Almost boarding time.
We boarded today from door 2 and turned left into a single section of 30 business class seats in a 1-2-1 configuration on my way to seat 4F. This popular reverse herringbone layout allows for direct aisle access by all passengers. This is a Cirrus series design seat introduced on their refit 777 to replace their dated 232 angle flat seats, and it has a few modifications here on the Dreamliner.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome aboard Air France. We'll be with you on this Boeing 787 Dreamliner until we reach Paris for Charles de Gaulle.
Waiting at your seat is a pillow and a blanket, as well as a hanger for a jacket, which the crew will collect during boarding, your amenities kit, menu, water bottle, and headphones. Similar to other Cirrus design seats, the IFE screen deploys at an angle from the next seat. However, here on Air France, there's no requirement to stow the display during taxi, takeoff, and landing.
Well, this is definitely a great day to kick off a new year of international travel here with Air France. A little toasty on here, no individual air nozzles, but hopefully they cool it down.
Air France also provided a sanitary kit, which included a surgical mask. It's important to note that cloth masks are not permitted on Air France. I flew prior to the US mask mandate being lifted, but Air France will still require masks on these long-haul flights for those passengers over age 5. Time for a quick seat tour here before takeoff. I appreciate cloth seats for long-haul travel as they tend to stay cool better than leather. However, I'm not a big fan of bulky airbag seatbelts. Next to the seat, you'll find a reading lamp, your entertainment remote control, and a surprisingly spacious storage compartment, complete with bungee straps for loose items and a mirror. Airline-provided noise-canceling headphones are hung inside and pre-plugged into the entertainment system. There's also an external jack under the remote for your own headphones. The outboard armrest is height adjustable and does not feature any storage, and it must be stowed during taxi, takeoff, and landing. The inner armrest is a bit small and it has limited use once reclined. which is just about my only complaint with this seat's design. Well, that, and overhead, you will not find any individual air vents on Air France. Anyway, now it's time to head to the runway.
We should be ready for 5 to 10 minutes, which means on time. The flight time tonight is 9 hours, which means we should be here at the schedule of the gate to go. The expected weather is quite fair, outside temperature 1 degrees Celsius. Thanks again for flying with us. I wish you a great ride, and I remind you that you have to wear your face mask on during the whole flight, on your nose and on your mouth, except of course during the meal. Once more, take care, enjoy the ride, and I'll talk to you later.
My last international flight in 2019 was also on a Dreamliner, and boy is it easy to forget how civil and quiet an airplane this is. So comfortable.
I must say I appreciate how open-feeling the Cirrus-style business class seat is. No, it doesn't have a privacy door, but it has an absolutely massive ottoman, which feels much less restrictive than competitive seats. And combined with the huge Dreamliner windows, it's really an inviting place to be. Do note that the window alignment is not ideal for every seat. We'll review the entertainment later in the flight, but for now, let's have a look at today's route on the 3D moving map, covering over 5,000 miles as we head up over northern Canada and Greenland. Now, service is about to begin, so let's take a look at today's menu. A multi-course business class dinner is on offer, with a single option for a cold starter and salad, and warm bread, and a choice between 4 entrees. Online pre-order was available as well, with a variety of other special meals for dietary and cultural restrictions and preferences. In the case of this flight, I was flying with my daughter as well, so I'll give you a look at what the specialty catered kids meals looked like in business class. We started out the evening with a pack of dry crackers and a bar service of gin and tonic.
First round of drinks. These little cheese crepe crackers. The flight attendant told me that we are in France now, and he's going to take great care of us. So cheers to that.
Another thing that I like about this seat is that the table can slide forward and angle enough to get out during service. Here, this allows me to get up again and show just how nice of a seat this is, and some excellent views as we cross over the Canadian Rockies. Next comes the cold appetizer course, served on a tray on top of a tablecloth with real metal cutlery. And here's what my daughter received for the first course. If you've ever wondered what a kid gets in business class, wonder no more. Departing Seattle, on offer for us adults, was a quinoa salad with smoked salmon, a locally appropriate choice for the Pacific Northwest. Here I had really the only service snafu of the flight to speak of, where I had requested a burgundy white wine to enjoy with the fish, but was instead served red, which I set aside for my main. And I was happy to let that red wine breathe, as my main course was the beef, advertised as a braised wagyu and a pork sauce with polenta cake and mini beets. Here was the kids' main course for comparison.
Just something great about eating hot meal on an airplane.
Overall, the meat was a bit like pot roast and ever so slightly dry, but well seasoned and pairing up perfectly with the other flavors on the plate. Next came the cheese course, which I was a bit surprised came without clearing away the main trays. Last was the dessert course, and here I opted for both the fresh fruit and the trio of mini pastries, along with a digestif for a nightcap. You are definitely not going to go hungry on Air France business class.
All right, here in the lavatory, and we have some potions of some sort over there. This is the forward lavatory. It's a decent size. Anyway, just finishing up mealtime. Get back to my seat and have dessert here. I've had a lovely first international flight since 2019.
As the day begins to come to an end, let's take a look at the amenities kit on offer for this flight, coming in a cloth zippered pouch containing the usual suspects: an eye mask and earplugs, socks, dental kit, and a pair of Clarins brand lotions. I did appreciate the Air France branded pen, always a nice touch. Since it was such an early flight departure from the West Coast, I wasn't sure how much I would actually sleep during this flight. However, the cabin crew utilized the often controversial window dimming override to darken the cabin after dinner, and I was feeling quite tired shortly after.
Gonna change into my pajamas, and then it's time for sleep. See you when we wake up.
So I made my bed and laid back to start a movie, and ended up quickly falling asleep, waking about 4 hours later, still in the dark and off the coast of Iceland. Overall, I find the seat quite comfortable for sleep, and I wouldn't hesitate to book this product for a red-eye again. I will say the quality of the dimming on these Dreamliner windows has been much improved from the earlier built planes, resulting in a much darker cabin during daylight than, say, the Norwegian 787-9 I flew in 2019.
Breakfast time.
As we await breakfast, let's talk about the in-flight entertainment. The display was bright, crisp, modern, responsive, and featured a full-color remote. Importantly, it does pivot down, which is very useful for watching when laid back, which many other business class screens lack. The content itself was pretty generous for the length of the flight, with movies, TV shows, music, and more on offer to pass the time. I always appreciate the full color function remote for the second display for the moving map or to browse for your next movie selection. This is definitely a high quality part of today's in-flight experience. Breakfast service was offered with the choice of a cold continental menu and then the option for a hot main for those with more of an appetite. In preparation for the day, the windows were unlocked and I started to undim them during breakfast. This was a full hot breakfast for sure. No skimping out here for a pre-arrival meal. The warm croissant wasn't an unwelcome touch either. I did order the onboard cappuccino. I always think that's a nice service touch, but to me, it tasted pre-sweetened, so I wasn't much of a fan. The available Illy espresso I ordered on the return flight was much better. Now that the windows were bright, I caught my first sight of land over the United Kingdom before heading on towards the English Channel and over mainland Europe.
The study we set now to the goal will be on the ground at 11:57, and which means we should be on time at the gate, maybe a little bit ahead of schedule. The weather right now in Paris is quite fair. They got 46 degrees. Thank you for flying with Air France. We should stay in Paris. A great flight for the Canadian passengers.
All right, well, that was a lovely flight. Be down on the ground soon. Enjoy this descent into Paris Charles de Gaulle. Glad I was able to bring you along on my first international flight since the start of the pandemic.
For those of you interested and perhaps planning your own travels into France this spring and summer, I will now go into what is currently involved to visit here in 2022. France has been easing travel restrictions and pandemic measures across the nation this spring, and with their latest round of changes, there's no longer any requirement for a pre-travel COVID-19 test for fully vaccinated travelers. For adults, this requires a booster 9 months after the second dose of an accepted 2-dose vaccine. For children 12 to 18 years old, a booster is not required. Unvaccinated passengers aged 12 and older arriving from green countries can also enter holding a valid COVID-19 test. At present, the US is a green list country. Children under age 12 are exempt from all requirements for testing or vaccination. All passengers traveling to Europe are supposed to make an account and fill out an EPLF electric passenger locator form for contact tracing. As far as US restrictions for your return flight, as of the time of this video, there is still a requirement to hold an accepted negative COVID-19 test taken within 1 day of your travels to return as a US citizen. Do make note that that is 1 day, not 24 hours. It just needs to be during the day prior to your travels back to the US. In our case, we used the Binax Now tests from eMed, sold at $150 for 6 tests, including the costs for monitoring and certifying the results. The airline will also collect from you a printed, signed health attestation form, stating that you have met the requirements for travel back to the US prior to your flight. It's ultimately your responsibility to provide this form, so I would recommend that you print it out prior to your trip and bring it with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Paris, Roissy Charles de Gaulle Airport. It's 11 a.m. local time. The arrival is located in Terminal 2E, Hall M. We thank you for flying with Air France and its SkyTeam partners. Wish you a pleasant day and an excellent onward journey if you're connecting to another flight.
I will link below to France's diplomacy website on these restrictions. However, if you're flying Air France, their own offered travel doc service did a great job of providing the actual rules and restrictions for your particular itinerary and dates of travel. Not only that, but Air France has a ready-to-fly service, where they email you 48 hours prior to your flight to ask for an advance copy of the health documents needed for boarding. In the case of our flight to Paris this evening, we had uploaded our US CDC vaccine cards, and sure enough, when we checked in online the next day on the Air France app, we were provisioned right away with a boarding pass reflecting that we were ready to fly. Of course, you still need to carry your vaccine card with you in case it's asked for at any point during the journey by officials, but Air France never asked us for anything at the airport since we had taken advantage of this service. When we cleared customs and immigration in France, there was no review of vaccination status either. Returning to the US is much the same. No one at the border asks to review your negative test. All verification is done by the airline prior to travel. Now, once you are in France, many of the restrictions like indoor mandatory masking have been lifted, with some exceptions like hospitals and, more pertinently, long-distance travel, which includes the country's high-speed rail network. Otherwise, though, from dining to museums and landmarks to hotels, you are welcome to choose not to wear a mask or to continue to wear one. I would say you'll feel welcome either way. In fact, I would say on a general level, you will feel very welcome in France. The country's own vaccine verification pass, or pass sanitaire, has also been almost entirely phased out from use. This means as an American tourist, there's no more reason to go to a local pharmacy and pay to have your CDC card reissued into the local pass. I have visited France many times. However, I have not been back since the pandemic, and I wasn't sure how the sentiment would be for tourism. Everywhere we went, it was busy with spring breakers and families from across France, the EU, and beyond, and everyone I saw and interacted with seemed very happy for the activity and business. On this trip, we visited the Alsatian city of Strasbourg on the German border, as well as staying within the heart of Paris, and really all around, it's very recommendable to visit France right now. Maybe it's just me here, but with what seems like a massive increase in cost to travel around and within the US, and at the time of this video, a very favorable euro conversion rate, traveling abroad to France and other European destinations is really timely to consider. Based on current health and economic conditions, I would definitely plan to return across the Atlantic again as my plans allow in 2022. I hope you found this video enjoyable and it inspires or informs your own travels.
You enjoyed this peek at Air France business class and a little look at what it's like to go to France here in spring of 2022. Thanks for coming along. Billy with Global Travels here. I will see you on my next flight.
Please remember to like, comment, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be made aware first when more content is available. As always, thanks for watching.